Greetings, everyone. I come with a message from beyond, for my friends, and also my enemies. What is up, guys? Long time no see, at least not in the I'm doing a review format. Today we're talking about Transmission by Ambrose Ibsen. I hope I'm saying their name right. And it is a horror story, so we're setting the mood with the darkness and the background music and all that good shit. Hey, do me a favor, if you're not subbed, hit the damn button. It helps me out a lot. Doesn't cost you anything, and you're here getting entertainment for free. So listen, I make a jackass of myself on this channel for your amusement regularly. You could sub, you could watch, just hit the button, you just give it a little tickle. But as I said, today we're here to talk about Transmission by Ambrose Ibsen. So let's get into it. For those of you who don't know, I would recommend you find out by going and checking out the story, because spoiler alert, it's pretty fucking good. But we have a horror story here following this college kid who happens across this song with a hidden message in it. And he follows that rabbit hole all the way to the very bitter end. And it makes for one hell of a wild ride. I'm not going to go too far into the plot because I don't want to do spoilers. I want you to go enjoy the story. I listened to it on Audible, and the narration was pretty good. There were a few mispronounced words. I don't know if the narrator was like British or something or what, but there were a few words that just like weren't pronounced the way they're pronounced in American English. So that was strange. Among them, garage and urinal, where any sane normal person would say garage and urinal. So, but we obviously do not take points from the actual book because of strange narration choices. So let's get into the review proper, shall we? So, first category, as always, characters. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty impressed with the characters in this story. I think the main protagonist was believable. He was somewhat sympathetic, but he did fall into a few of the classic horror tropes of, why the fuck would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, you had the warning signs. There was no reason to push this to the maximum, and you did. And then there's smart choices that could have been made that were not. So, the main character, at least, is guilty of some of the classic horror tropes, and that does, detract from overall character category in general. Because, I mean, if the author wrote one character that way, they could write any character that way. And I'm sorry, when you have characters commit to those really old, tired horror tropes of doing shit that's stupid, and everyone knows it's stupid, that's a stupid character choice, because no sane person would do that in that situation. And the character was depicted as sane. So I'm going to dock some points for that. However, other than that one little nitpicky thing about kind of a falling into some of the tropes and conventions of the genre that don't personally make sense to me, that the characters are guilty of, and therefore it's going in this category. Other than that, the characters were pretty good. The best friend was kind of the eccentric goofball comic relief character, while still being a pretty good steadfast friend. We had kind of this old grizzled type character. He was pretty good. And we had this gypsy lady who was a pretty good depiction of the old mysterious gypsy trope, and I like that trope personally, and I think this was a decent depiction of it. It wasn't it wasn't ham-handed or lazy or anything. So overall, character category was not bad at all. We're gonna walk away from characters with a respectable 80%. Next, we move on to originality. And I'm not the biggest horror fan. That's obvious because I don't do a lot of horror reviews on this channel. And at this point, if I read it, I review it on this channel. So, I might be missing a lot of clues or, indicators of pretty worn in and well-explored genre conventions and tropes that I'm just not aware of because I don't read a lot of horror. But in my opinion, the story was fairly original. We got this storyline of this kid following a hidden message. He's coming out of a college dorm. It's nothing that's like groundbreaking original, but I felt like there were enough things that typically don't get matched up to where it was a fairly original concept, especially some of the lore of the supernatural thing that's going on that wasn't really dove into, but it wasn't dove into as a component of the story, like it was kept mysterious for a reason. And overall, I feel like that was respectably done. So again, I'm not going to beat up on the category too hard. It certainly could have been more original in a lot of ways. So I'm going to give this one a 75. It didn't commit any egregious sins, right? But it definitely could have been better. It definitely could have not used some of the old, well-worn-in tropes that horror is known for. So, yeah, 75 on that one. Now, next, we have message and symbolism. It's kind of hard to say what the central message of this story is, because we get this college kid who gets a wild hair up his ass and goes poking around with things he doesn't understand. We get the old grizzled character doing the same thing. And overall, I'd say that the only message that I could take away is don't fuck with things that you don't understand. And that's a decent message, so okay, I'll run with that. And the symbolism used in some places was fairly decent. There was this old abandoned shack in the woods that was used as a placeholder for this grave where this witch was buried. I felt like this old empty shack being out in the middle of the woods where this witch was buried, I felt like there was some symbolism there. This is kind of going into like really abstract analysis and like really reaching kind of stuff. But I think there's an argument to be made there that, that's kind of symbolic of this idea that's based in reality that evil tries to hide itself. Evil is always trying to stay out of the light. And so, of course, the witch is buried in this remote location so that she can avoid detection and be in her hypnosis hibernation spell for the full duration. So that was a story component that had a very one-to-one tether with the old classic idea that you get in a lot of literature that evil is always trying to hide itself from view, from detection. So that's good. And unfortunately, I consumed the story so long ago that I'm forgetting. I feel like there were some more fairly good little nuggets of symbolism sprinkled throughout in the prose. No big story elements, but there were a few places where in the prose there was like a symbolic usage of a phrase or a mildly symbolic tethering on one story element or event or another. And I remember thinking overall that it was not bad for a story that clearly had usage of occult lore and that kind of flavor to it. it was not too bad. So we're gonna give that one an 80. Now we're down to plot, and the plot was pretty good, believable. I can't think of a single plot hole that was like, oh man, I have to talk about that. As I did say before, the main character fell victim to some horror tropes, doing stuff that was obviously a bad idea, not doing stuff that was an obvious choice because they felt awkward or the group said no, let's not do that. But none of that stuff quite rises to plot hole level, because sometimes humans do profoundly stupid shit. So I'm not gonna ding the story for that kind of crap. And maybe that's me being a little bit merciful, maybe taking it a little too easy, but I've known people to do really stupid things. So again, not unrealistic at all, really. And besides that, the plot was well paced. It moved along in a very structured and sequential manner. It was easy to follow, but there were a few places where you didn't know what was going to happen next, and the writing and the prose were so well done that for quite a few places you were on the edge of your seat, or at least I was, waiting for the next thing to happen. And a few places it took a left turn that I did not fully expect. I thought maybe that was in the realm of possibility, but it was like my third or fourth choice. So overall, the plot is good, pretty good for me. So we'll say 90 there. And then we come all the way down to prose at the last category spot. And here is where I think the book shined the most. The writer has a talent for words. The writer is good at poetic language and word selection and symbolism, casual symbolism level stuff in the line-by-line writing. So I think the prose were pretty good in this story. Again, it was narrated to me, so I can't give you any specific examples because I don't have a physical copy in my hand to hold. So you're just going to have to take my word for it, go consume the story. I got it on Audible. It wasn't that expensive, and I'm sure you can get a physical copy too. So, yeah, no complaint on the prose, 100%. Oh, and by the way, if you're looking for something to read that isn't, classic horror, something that's a little bit lighter, more fun, I welcome you to check out my novel, The Garden of Lies. Epic fantasy, following some wolf shifters on their crusade to get to the bottom of a very interesting government conspiracy. And if you're saying to yourself, I'm watching a horror review, epic fantasy isn't really my thing, well then you're in luck. Because the sequel, The Garden of Hope, is much, much darker. So, enjoy the story in the first one, get to the second one for all the darkness. Welcome to Garden.